Parents of a weird kid, how did you react when you realized that your kid did weird/creepy stuff? Story 1. He's not my kid, but my godson is extremely creepy. He likes to stand in his little sister's doorway while she naps and watches her sleep. I asked him why, and he says, "It's the closest I can get to seeing her dead." He also likes to shove her fist in his mouth as far as it can go because he wants to know what suffocating is like, just in case. I'm pretty sure he'd be a serial killer if it wasn't for Mario Kart. Edit. He is 8, she is 5. He hasn't done as many creepy things lately. It was mostly right after she was born. He had a hard time adjusting. He still says the odd weird thing here and there, but nothing as bad as when I mentioned above. His offhand comments are much more innocent, such as, "I'm gonna sell you on Kijiji," and "I'm gonna sell you for a quarter and ask for change," to his sister. Also, his character in Mario Kart is always Yoshi, and although he is unhealthily obsessed with the game, he's an otherwise normal 8-year-old. Yes, we're all aware of the healing powers of Mario Kart, especially Double Dash. I used to have night terrors, but Double Dash sure blue shelled those into oblivion. And it is good too, because that kid sounds extra creepy. I say extra because all kids are kind of creepy. They're like humans, but wrong, you know? Story 2. All these weird stories remind me of this thread about crap kids say. I was visiting family for winter break in Los Angeles. This was about 5 years ago. I was heading to the bathroom on the second floor of my aunt's house when I saw my cousin April on the stairs. April was 4 and very animated. She was busy making funny faces while sitting on the stairs. I asked her what she was doing. She said, "I'm copying the lady with the braid." I looked around. There was no one else but us. I asked, "Where's the lady, April?" She pointed to a bead running parallel to the stairwell. I asked April, "What is the lady doing?" She said, "Making funny faces." I smiled and started walking up the stairs again when April said something that stopped me in my tracks. "April, her braids is around her neck." I turned back and asked April to repeat herself. April pointed. "The lady is hanging by her braid. She's making funny faces." Then April started making a face, which I then realized was someone gasping for air. Story 3. My kid has been the weird kid since about 2 years old. His favorite bedtime stories were the user manuals to my appliances. At 3, he became obsessed with human biology and would watch open heart surgeries on YouTube. He was also obsessed with vacuums. For 4 years, he would spend hours in department stores demonstrating to shoppers how to use them. At 5, his summer plans was to teach himself mechanical engineering and physics. I could go on. When he turned 3 is when I started to suspect he was different. It scared the F out of me. He was my firstborn, so I had no idea if he was developing normally or not. His thirst for knowledge became extreme, and I didn't understand how to handle him, so at 4 I sent him to a child psychologist. I was terrified my son would have a nervous breakdown because although he was so young, he never once in his life played. All he did was learn. The psychologist made it clear to me that he was gifted, but that I had to force him to play. Otherwise, he would develop OCD and other disorders. I'm trying to make this short. He is 8 now and still different, but he does play, sometimes. I'm happy he is who he is, but I can see that he has a difficult life ahead of him. He doesn't have many friends, mainly because he would rather discuss the news than some new game or toy. I can say this, though. I don't think I'll ever meet another human being who is anything like my son, and I love that about him. I mean, hey, as long as he's happy and you're supportive in the right ways, I think that's great. I would be kind of scared if a 5-year-old was teaching me about vacuums in a store, but to be fair, I don't particularly like when adults do that either. I am a little concerned with watching open heart surgeries at 3 because how does a 3-year-old find that stuff on their own? And if he wasn't, why are you showing it to him? Story 4. Not my kid, but my nephew. He's 10 years old and is being taken out of school for homeschooling. He had major troubles learning and fitting into the classroom in general. The weird kid aspect is this crush that he has on a girl in his class. I hesitate to say crush because it's full-on creepy 10-year-old stalking. His parents have had probably 30 talks with him about moving on and that this girl will not ever see him as anything positive and then he needs to get over it. He's seen 2 different counselors who recommend he be taken out of any such situation in which he might be around her because he's completely obsessed with her. This causes him to have a panic attack because it's part of his identity. His exact words were, "If I'm not the boy who likes blank, then I don't even know who I am. That's me. I'm the boy who likes blank." He isn't allowed to have any type of electronics that can take pictures because he took his iPod to school and took a bunch of pictures of this girl. His parents are worried about where this will go, so to try and combat it, they had him pulled out of school and he's in serious counseling. He's a sweet kid, but holy F, does he have some major fundamental problems. Story 5. I came home from work one night to find my darling 2-year-old blonde daughter standing at the top of the stairs, staring up at the full moon in her jammies, teddy bear in hand. She should have been in bed by this time. Not wanting to scare her, I walked up the stairs, knelt down next to her, and asked her what she was thinking about. I was imagining she would say something childish like, "Is the moon really made of cheese, Daddy?" Something cute like that. Instead, she turns to face me with a very serious look on her face and in a very serious and creepy monotone voice says to me, "We are all in the same cage." 2 years old! I nearly died of fright. I literally recoiled from her and ran back down the stairs backwards. I couldn't believe it. She said a few more creepy things like that, but it stopped after a while. Update, that was 12 years ago. She has since turned into a very happy and well-adjusted teenager who's only slightly in league with Satan. Hey, if you say so. I'm sure she hasn't been plotting against you all these years, regaining your trust after those early slip-ups, all while she waits for the moment when the planets align and the sacrifices must be made. She knows you must love her, for without that power, the fourth seal that binds the Dark Lord cannot be shattered. Story 6. My kid is into nature documentaries. Very into nature documentaries. One day when he was 3 years old, my wife was getting his bath ready. She went over to the tub, checked the water temperature. My son shoved his face in her butt, took a huge whiff, walked away and said, "Ah, dominant female butt." I have since realized not only is he into nature and its beasts, but he retains almost anything he sees while watching those educational shows. He is also most likely going to be a butt man. Story 7. My 3-year-old daughter loves old monster movies. I'm in the habit of putting on a movie while I clean the house. I plugged on King Kong 1933. Next thing I know, my daughter is enthralled. She can't stop screaming, "What's that? A monster!" and crying when Kong kills a dinosaur. I asked her 5 times if she wanted me to stop the movie and got an emphatic no. Since then, she's gone on to fall in love with Ray Harryhausen films and Godzilla films. She cries her eyes out every time Mothra leaves Earth in Godzilla vs. Mothra, The Battle for Earth. My wife was concerned the 3-year-old actually enjoys crying and watching movies that made her sad or scared. I just shrugged and found some old Kong and Godzilla toys on eBay. When her friends who are girls come over, she tries to get them to play monsters. They look at her like they have no clue what she's asking. I was a weird kid myself, so my only hope is that I can convey to her that there's nothing wrong with being into things other kids aren't. That it makes her unique and cool and interesting. You're a cool parent, and not in a sitting on the chair backwards cool either, like a legit mature and wise cool. I think your daughter's going to be all right, and I hope her passion for old monster movies sticks with her because if I met a kid who liked those old movies, I would think that's pretty rad. Story 8. My son has said that when he kills someone, he'll put their body on the train tracks so no one will know they were murdered. And then he said if anyone saw him, he'd have to put their body on the train tracks too. He was 6. I embrace his dark side. It'll help out a lot in the future zombie invasion. Story 9. I've told this story once before on a similar thread, so here it goes. My kid hit a dead animal. It's escaping me what kind, arm, either bird or squirrel. He kept it there for a long time till it began to stink up everything. When found, I thought, oh crap, am I raising a serial killer? I watched him closely for years. He's fine now, in college, good grades, etc. If he's a serial killer, I have no idea. Story 10. He's unbelievably interested in bugs of all sorts. In 2nd grade, his class was learning about bugs and their body parts, thorax, abdomen, etc. His test asked him to circle all the pictures of bugs that had mandibles. He got a point off for not circling a mosquito. He went and talked to the teacher and told her that the mosquito had a proboscis, not a mandible. She gave him the point back. Edit. It's me. I'm the weird kid who likes bugs. Hey, maybe you were just the weird kid who likes bugs. Other kids might look at you and go, that kid likes bugs a lot. It's weird. But you know what? You might go to college to learn about bugs, become an accomplished entomologist even, make a living from that passion. Then you'll no longer be the weird kid who likes bugs. You'll be the weird adult who likes bugs. That's maybe worse, but who cares as long as you're happy. Story 11. When I was supervising her in the bath, she stood up, dropped her washcloth in the water, stood on it to push it under the water, and menacingly whispered, "Now think about what you've done." Funny in hindsight, but at the time I was a little concerned that my daughter tried to drown a washcloth. Story 12. My kid is a classical musician. We're the village idiots, so I have no idea where this talent came from, but he's known as the weirdo in the family. Don't get me wrong, we're very proud, and there really is nothing quite so moving as listening to the planets live from some major performing arts center. It has been a real education for us. Alas, we really don't fit in when we attend his concerts, and we are the weirdos. Story 13. I babysat the neighbor's kid. When the parents went out, the little boy, around 6, told me, "I'm going to kill Mummy," and took me to the top of the stairs where he'd tied string across the banisters at ankle level. Was his head shaped kind of like a football, and did his dog have a drinking problem? If so, no worries, he'll grow out of that phase in a few seasons and become a little more complex of a character, kind of. But honestly, his whole family's just overrated. You should go babysit for that family with the guy who works for the CIA and the weird gray uncle instead. They're way better. Story 14. I don't know if it's creepy, but my son loves fat bellies. When he was younger, he used to hug people and smash his face in their bellies. He always liked our fat friends the best. He's 7 now and still keen. I have to remind him that ladies don't like being told they've got a nice, big, squishy belly. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.